In the early hours of the morning, a powerful car bomb shattered the calm on Yasenovaya Street in southern Moscow, sending shockwaves through the city and far beyond. The explosion was so intense that it could be heard for blocks, with windows rattling and car alarms blaring in the aftermath. Emergency services rushed to the scene, their sirens piercing the stunned silence as first responders worked to secure the area and tend to the wounded. The target was Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov, a high-ranking and influential Russian military official. He was killed instantly, his vehicle reduced to twisted metal and scorched debris. Sarvarov was not just a military leader, he was a symbol of Moscow's authority and its ongoing campaign in Ukraine. The attack struck deep within a quiet residential neighborhood, a place where families were just beginning their day. The violence of war, once distant, had arrived at the very heart of the Russian capital, leaving residents shaken and fearful. For many, the sense of safety they once felt in their own city was shattered in an instant. The timing of the bombing could not have been more significant. Just hours earlier, Russian and Ukrainian delegations had concluded a round of tense peace talks in Miami, Florida. Hopes for a diplomatic breakthrough were cautiously rising, with both sides hinting at possible compromises. But now those hopes have been thrown into doubt. Instead of de-escalation, the assassination of Sarvarov signals a dangerous new phase in the conflict. The attack has sent shockwaves through Russian society, with many fearing that the violence will only escalate from here. News of the bombing spread rapidly, dominating headlines and sparking urgent discussions about security and the future of the war. Investigators believe the bomb was expertly planted under Sarvarov's white Kia SUV, detonating with deadly precision as he left for work. What should have been a routine morning commute was transformed into a scene of chaos and destruction, with debris scattered across the street and the acrid smell of smoke lingering in the air. The method of attack, an explosive device detonated in a civilian neighborhood, was calculated to instill fear and send a chilling message. No one, not even the most protected officials, is truly safe. Residents now look over their shoulders, wondering if more violence could erupt at any moment. The Kremlin now faces a major blow, both militarily and symbolically. The loss of such a senior figure is a stark reminder of the conflict's reach, and the government's response will be closely watched by both allies and adversaries. Emergency meetings have been called, and the Russian flag flies at half-mast as the nation mourns and braces for what comes next. This brazen act of violence could derail already fragile diplomatic efforts, or, paradoxically, it might force a new urgency for peace. As global leaders react and tensions mount, the world waits anxiously to see how Moscow will respond, and whether this tragedy will mark a turning point in the war, or simply another escalation in a conflict with no clear end in sight. Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov was a pivotal figure in Russia's military, a man whose influence extended far beyond the walls of his office. Known for his sharp intellect and unwavering discipline, Sarvarov was respected by both his peers and subordinates. His career spanned decades, during which he steadily rose through the ranks, earning a reputation as a master strategist and a meticulous planner. At the height of his career, he was entrusted with heading the Operational Training Directorate, a role that placed him at the very heart of Russia's military machine. This directorate is responsible for shaping the doctrine, tactics, and preparedness of the entire Russian armed forces. He oversaw the training and readiness of Russian troops, ensuring that every unit, from elite special forces to new recruits, was prepared for the challenges of modern warfare. Under his guidance, training regimens became more rigorous, and operational standards were raised across the board. Sarvarov's influence shaped the very core of Russia's war effort. He was deeply involved in developing new strategies, adapting to evolving threats, and coordinating large-scale military exercises that tested the limits of Russia's capabilities. His expertise and knowledge of operational plans made him a critical asset and a high-value target. Few understood the intricacies of Russia's military playbook as intimately as Sarvarov did. Sarvarov's assassination is more than symbolic. It's a direct hit to the military's brain trust. The shockwaves from his death have rippled through the ranks, leaving many to question the security of even the most senior leaders. His role was less public, but he was a key architect behind Russia's battlefield strategies. While others took the spotlight, Sarvarov worked behind the scenes, orchestrating complex operations and ensuring that every detail was accounted for. Targeting him was a calculated move to disrupt the military's core functions, not just eliminate a commander. His absence leaves a gap in leadership and expertise that cannot be easily replaced. The attack sends a menacing signal. Even those in strategic positions in Moscow are vulnerable. It demonstrates that no one, regardless of rank or responsibility, is beyond reach. It creates fear and paranoia within the highest ranks, forcing senior officials to question their own safety and the loyalty of those around them. The psychological impact is profound, as trust erodes and suspicion grows. The state is now compelled to divert significant resources to protect its own, tightening security protocols and increasing surveillance. This shift in focus inevitably strains the military's ability to operate efficiently. The loss of Sarvarov leaves a vacuum that will be hard to fill quickly. His unique combination of experience, knowledge, and leadership made him irreplaceable in the short term, and his absence will be felt in every major decision. This was a deliberate strike, designed for maximum disruption and psychological impact. The message is clear. The war is not just fought on the front lines, but also in the minds of those who lead. The bomb exploded on Yasenovaya Street, a quiet residential area in southern Moscow. Planted under Sarvarov's white Kia SUV, the device tore the vehicle apart, sending shockwaves through the neighborhood. Residents described a massive bang, shattered windows, and a plume of black smoke. Many thought it was an accident, until they saw the destruction. Emergency services quickly sealed off the area, treating it as an attack on the state. Investigators combed the wreckage for clues, underscoring the seriousness of the incident. The attack in a civilian neighborhood shattered any illusion of safety for Muscovites. It showed that the war's violence can strike anywhere, at any time. Russia's investigative committee immediately launched a terrorism investigation into Sarvarov's killing. Officials quickly pointed to Ukrainian intelligence as the prime suspect, framing the attack as state-sponsored terrorism. This narrative, echoed by pro-Kremlin voices, aims to justify ongoing military operations and deflect blame for any collapse in peace talks. The investigation will focus on finding evidence to support this theory, but the perpetrators likely covered their tracks well. Authorities are reviewing CCTV, analyzing cell data, and examining explosive residue for leads. The pressure to solve the case is immense, as Russia's security reputation is on the line. The Kremlin's swift accusations serve both domestic and international messaging. Kyiv's official response has been silence. No statements from the president's office or military. This ambiguity is strategic, sowing uncertainty and fear within Russia, while maintaining plausible deniability internationally. The silence forces Moscow to consider multiple possibilities, straining its security apparatus. It also allows Ukraine's allies to continue support without openly endorsing assassinations. Meanwhile, Ukrainian social media celebrates the attack, boosting morale and signaling strength. The message Ukraine can strike back, even in the heart of Moscow. Sarvarov's assassination is part of a pattern. Senior Russian officials have been targeted before. In April, Lieutenant General Moskalyk was killed in a similar car bombing near Moscow. In December last year, General Kirilov died in an explosion, despite heavy security. Ukraine's security service is often blamed, but never confirms or denies involvement. These attacks show a shadow war targeted killings to degrade Russia's command and sow chaos. Each successful strike sends a message. No one directing the war is truly safe. The campaign aims to make the cost of war personal for Russia's elite. The psychological pressure on the Kremlin is mounting. Residents of Yasenovaya Street are shaken, their sense of safety shattered. The war, once distant, has arrived at their doorstep in the most brutal way. Many now see their own city as vulnerable, realizing security is an illusion. The aftermath, a cordoned-off street, police, and a burned-out car, serves as a grim reminder. Parents hesitate to let children outside, anxiety hangs in the air. For these Muscovites, the war is no longer abstract, it's personal and traumatic. The attack forces ordinary Russians to confront the true cost of the conflict. The assassination comes at a critical moment for peace efforts, just as talks in Miami offered a glimmer of hope. For months, diplomats from around the world have worked tirelessly to bring both sides to the table, hoping to end a conflict that has already cost countless lives. The Miami negotiations were seen as a rare opportunity, a chance to build trust and perhaps chart a path toward a lasting ceasefire. The world watched with cautious optimism as leaders shook hands and exchanged promises, aware that the stakes could not be higher. Now, hardliners on both sides may use the attack to argue against negotiation. Voices of skepticism and anger are growing louder, with some politicians insisting that dialogue is futile in the face of violence. The fragile consensus that made these talks possible is suddenly under threat, as those opposed to compromise seize the moment to push their agendas. In Russia, nationalists will claim Ukraine can't be trusted, pushing for escalation. They are likely to demand a tougher military response, arguing that any sign of weakness will only invite further attacks. The Kremlin faces mounting pressure to abandon diplomacy and respond with force, risking a dangerous spiral of retaliation. For Ukraine, the ability to strike in Moscow is a show of strength and resolve. Some see it as a necessary demonstration that Ukraine will not back down, even in the heart of its adversary's capital. Yet this boldness comes with risks, as it could harden Russian resolve and make future negotiations even more difficult. But this strategy risks provoking harsh retaliation and alienating international partners. Allies who have supported Ukraine's cause may now worry about being drawn into a wider conflict, or about the erosion of diplomatic norms. The international community is left to weigh its response, balancing support for Ukraine with the urgent need to prevent further escalation. The killing injects distrust and anger into already fragile diplomacy. Every step forward is now shadowed by suspicion, as both sides question each other's intentions and commitment to peace. The atmosphere in negotiation rooms has grown tense, with even small gestures now loaded with meaning. Peace requires trust. Now, that's in short supply. The foundation for dialogue has been shaken, and the path to reconciliation seems more uncertain than ever. Without trust, even the most carefully crafted agreements can unravel in an instant. Mediators face an uphill battle to keep talks alive amid calls for revenge. They must navigate a landscape filled with anger, grief, and suspicion, working tirelessly to prevent the collapse of diplomacy. Their efforts are more crucial than ever, as the world hopes for a breakthrough that can halt the violence. The shadow of this car bomb looms over any hope for ending the war. Its impact is felt not just in Moscow, but in every negotiation room and every capital invested in peace. The world now waits anxiously, wondering if diplomacy can survive this latest blow, or if the cycle of violence will continue unchecked. The killing of General Sarvarov is a stark reminder that war's cost is not limited to distant battlefields. The violence has breached Russia's borders, traumatizing civilians and blurring the line between front and home front. For years, the Kremlin shielded major cities from the war's direct impact. Now, drone attacks and assassinations make that impossible. The world seeks peace, but this act pulls both sides back toward conflict. It highlights the challenge of diplomacy amid ongoing violence and shadow warfare. The question remains, can peace be forged while such attacks continue, or is escalation inevitable? The war's human cost is now felt by all, soldiers and civilians in Ukraine and Moscow alike.